Unknown. Written by Divide. Chapter 10. Contacted. After hours of kneeling and either nodding or shaking my head, I finally reached the limit of my patience. Cheerily was in the middle of relaying a story about a group of children that called themselves the Cutie Mark Crusaders when something inside me snapped. I stood up with such speed that I smashed the ornate table with a knee, spilling several drinks that had been served earlier and making the ponies jump in surprise. There was only so much turn-taking discussion that I could bear. I would rather assault an enemy base unarmed than hear one more word about cultural differences, crop cultivation numbers, or upcoming weather predictions. I was provided with enough information regarding the effects of my arrival that I would realistically be able to use, and yet they still kept talking. I folded my note-taking papers that now numbered in dozens and stuffed them in my pocket on my chest, then grabbed my helmet and headed for the exit. I heard several exclamations, most beginning with where and ending with going. The words turned into meaningless gibberish as soon as I stepped through the purple spear that Twilight Sparkle had created. I shoved the doors open without looking back. 1,000 eyes were trained on me the second my form appeared outside. I stopped like I had just been shot at. There were hundreds held back by a loose ring of the military ponies that I now know were called the Royal Guard. I stared at the crowd, and they stared back. I felt like I was being judged in some way, and I didn't like it. I started to walk forward, and they stepped back as if I repelled them by magnetism. My expression must not have been pleasant. I put my helmet back on as I kept walking, the reflective surface giving me no small comfort, and the sea of ponies parted like I was some sort of messiah figure. Nothing stood in my way as I retraced my journey and returned to the ship. I took a couple of wrong turns through the narrow portions of the town, but I did not get lost. The morning had bled into afternoon while I was stuck listening to the problems my arrival had caused. After ensuring that I was not followed, I relieved myself at the edge of the furrow the ship had created. My stream narrowly missed a rabbit that was camouflaged in the dirt. It stopped and watched me until I was finished, then bounded into the forest. After pulling myself up into the hangar, I estimated there'd only be 4 or 5 hours of daylight left. I dragged the scrap I had moved to exit the ship back into its place. I knew it would not stop the ponies if they truly desired entrance, but it gave me a small peace of mind regardless. I walked quickly into the direction of the cryogenic chamber room and was met in the hallway by a huffing Catherine, who obviously heard the clanging of my boots. She looked a little pale, but she was not shivering. The thermal clothing from her footlocker evidently provided enough protection from the cold. The submachine gun I left her was strapped to her hip, as was some sort of radio. I took my helmet off as she approached.
Next time you do something that will undoubtedly have lasting effects, can you at least wait for me to wake up first?
Her voice was angry, but her expression was relieved.
I nearly panicked when I woke up and you weren't there. I know you're probably used to acting alone, but your decisions affect me too.
Sorry, I replied. I had no idea what I was getting myself into when I left. I regret not taking you with me.
You've been gone almost all day, Six. A lot's happened since then. I'd love to know what exactly you got yourself into, but it can wait.
Catherine took a deep breath before continuing.
I found a bunch of radios in the armory. Most of them were busted, but this one was the only one turned off. I turned it on and got nothing but static, so I went to the edge of the hangar to get better reception. I got a response on the third broadcast signal. There are other survivors.
I felt eerily calm. Where?
Deep in the forest from what they've told me. They're camped along the edge of the large river, and they've been assaulted every night by... God knows what. Some of the descriptions? I don't know how they're still alive.
Catherine handed me the radio from her hip.
I told them everything I knew. The leader of the survivors wanted to speak with you as soon as possible.
I looked at the radio, then back at Catherine. Did they give a name? She swallowed and nodded.
The leader said his name was One.
I ran to the wall I built. Some of my brothers in arms were still alive. I had almost given up hope. Almost. I was already speaking to the radio while Catherine followed in my wake, struggling to keep up pace. Unit 1, this is Unit 6, over. I heard no response, so I repeated myself. A moment of empty silence passed before the radio crackled to life. Unit 6, this is Unit 1. What is your status, over? I inadvertently sighed and leaned my head against the cold steel of the hangar wall. Mental and physical capabilities are fully operational. Armor and weaponry fully operational, over. Good to hear you speak, soldier, said the gravelly voice of One. His voice sounded bleak. We tried breaking 9 out of his chamber, but it didn't go well. The shock killed him. We had to leave you behind. There was no other choice. Over. Catherine looked at me with wide, concerned eyes. When she opened her mouth to say something, I put a finger over my lips and remained silent. I understand, I replied. Who is left? Over. Units 2 through 5. 9 and 10 are terminated. Unit 7 is near breaking point. He will crack tonight. Unit 8 has a broken leg, femur. Not life-threatening, but common effectiveness if reduced. One pause for a few seconds. Is the woman around? Over. No, I said as I looked at Catherine. Over. Tonight is probably our last stand. We ran out of food yesterday. Ammo is nearly depleted. Every night there are more beasts. Wood wolves, great bears, monsters of the dark that cannot be named. It feels like the forest itself is assaulting us with nightmares. We fought valiantly, but we will die here, wherever here is. He chuckled coldly before adding, Over. I glanced at Catherine. Her face was one of shock. Evidently she had not heard the truth of the situation till I had. There was only one thing to do. It's still several hours before nightfall. All vehicles on board are destroyed, but I have access to food and ammunition, possibly first aid. If you describe the location, I might be able to get directions and provide assistance. What are your orders? Over. Leave the dead to their deaths, 6. Over. I stared at the radio as if it has tried to bite me. Repeat. Order. Over. I said leave the dead to their deaths. Over. Sir. I began before my fingers slipped off the transmitter button. One's voice echoed out. I told you never to call me that, 6. All of us are guilty of heinous crimes, and we are numbered to remind us that we are merely tools to be used. We are numbered by the drugs they slip into our food, and made us to feel invincible by the armor they make us wear, and the steroids they inject us with. They take away what makes us human piece by piece. They turn us into unfeeling machines that carry out tasks considered too repulsive for normal soldiers, and we do it without batting an eye. We are the vigilant protectors of our people, dauntless in our willingness to commit the atrocities we are ordered to perform. They say we deserve this, that we brought this upon ourselves. But the truth is, we don't. Nobody deserves what we've been through. All of us could have taken the easy way out and chosen death, but we didn't. We chose to sacrifice over surrender. We were promised amnesty for our crimes after 5 years of service, but of course it was never given. They made us forget who we were and why we made the choices we did. One took a deep breath before continuing. She told me about the inhabitants. Alien ponies, she called them. Not hostile, no advanced weaponry. Bandaged her up good as new and didn't ask for anything in return. And you visited them and came back. There was a lengthy pause. When he didn't continue, I took it up as my turn to speak. I did. They created something that allowed me to understand them, but they could not understand me. They said it was only a matter of time before it worked both ways. I pulled out some of my crumpled notes. They talk like us, have the same basic needs as us. Food, water, shelter, clean air. Their technology is primitive, but they have ways to compensate. They're concerned about what our arrival means for their civilization. They're frightened of the forest, the ship that crashed on it and things within it. They only live on the outskirts. They call it the Everfree. Over. The Everfree, an apt name. When we die, we will be here forever free. He sighed. 6. Your orders are as follows. Remain where you are and establish good relations with the natives. Do not tell them who you were, what you did, and above all, do not tell them why you did it. Keep them innocent. Do not expose them to our world. Give the dead the respect they deserve. Make the woman happy. Make a life for yourself. This is your exoneration, 6. It's been a long time coming. Don't waste it. There is no going back. Live your life to its fullest potential. And leave the dead to their deaths. Over and out. The radio static went dead. Come in. Unit 1. I repeat, come in. Unit 1. No reply. I slumped against the wall and slid slowly down until I hit the floor. Catherine sat down beside me, and I felt her head against my shoulder. She was quietly sobbing. I bowed my head, and for the first time I could remember, I felt tears flow freely. Chapter 11. Known. I stood at the edge of the hangar, looking off into the distance at nothing in particular. The sun was setting in a myriad of colors and provided a stunning backdrop no matter where I stared. I found myself returning to the same spot whenever I needed to gather my wits and appreciate the moment. My commander's words echoed in my thoughts frequently. I did my best to heed them, but there were some aspects of my character that still refused to change. Even being released from duty directly from one's mouth, I had to constantly fight the urge to grab all the weapons I could carry and march blindly into the forest until I found the remains of the juggernauts, ran out of bullets, or died. There was plenty to do, however. There were a lot of bodies to burn. I wanted to perform the rite on the ship. Burning them on alien soil felt wrong, but spreading their ashes inside the ship felt more wrong. I left 9 in his cryo chamber. It was as good as a coffin for the time being. The decimated pieces of the crew inhabiting the living quarters were carried out in garbage bags from the cafeteria. The ponies kept their distance from my earlier outburst, or the pieces of meat I had been arranging outside for the better part of the day. I only saw the occasional flyer. Catherine finally gave the all clear as the sun was beginning to set, meaning she couldn't find any more bodies for me to bag up and drag out. Like Rainbow Dash had said, the weather team was beginning to turn, and the sky was full of clouds. Although rain had not come yet, there were a few barrels of cooking oil left intact, and I poured them over the remains to ensure they would burn thoroughly. An emergency flare would provide the spark to start the pyre. We stood in silence for a few minutes. Tears were running down Catherine's cheek, though she wasn't crying.
"Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good,"
she whispered.
"His love endures forever."
She crossed herself and bowed her head. More silence. I ignited the flare and brought it to a small pooling of oil at the base of the funeral pyre. The pile caught quickly, and soon the remains were ablaze. When the flames reached 20 feet high, I briefly wondered if I used too much oil, but any worry was wiped away by the cleansing aura of the fire. At some point, I realized that Catherine and I were no longer alone. The farmer Applejack, Lyra, Fluttershy, and Twilight Sparkle was sitting a short distance away from us, also sharing in the fire's mesmerizing presence. I cleared my throat loud enough for only Catherine to hear me. Her eyes widened when she noticed the ponies. "Would you like to meet them?" Son, I love you. I love you more than anything else in this world. You are the world, and the world is yours if you want it. You can do anything you have the capacity to conceive. You have the means. You have her support, forever and always. I left you with her because she will always hold your best interest at heart. She will be the only mother you will ever know. It's better that way. We are not from this world. This is not our world, and we do not belong here, and should have never been brought. The atrocities our race has committed cannot be fully comprehended, even by us. Whatever marks we leave here will never become unmarked. We must remove our presence. But this can only happen over time. Memories fade, and trees will regrow. The ship will be reclaimed by the Earth. The munitions were destroyed with chemicals and magic. He sighed. I'm not asking you to make the same sacrifice that I have. I can't ask you to do that as my son. I'm asking you to find another way. For their sake, we don't deserve them. Do not follow the left path or the right path. Make your own. I love you, son. Be well. Do the right thing. The recording clicked to a stop. His mother's voice called to him from down the hall.
"Solomon, breakfast."
He came to the dining room adjacent to the kitchen, recording device still in hand, and an uncertain expression on his face.
"Mother."
He folded the newspaper that she had been reading.
Yes, dear?
She glanced at the device, looked away, and then did a double take. The teal fur around her face changed to a deathly white.
Where did you get that?
Our doorstep. It was in a rat box, like a gift.
That was no gift.
She muttered under her breath. With a sigh, she looked at Solomon in the eye. He had never seen such a fierce look.
How long have you been listening to it?
Hours. All of it. I repeated some parts, but I still don't understand.
What don't you understand?
How did this happen? Why am I here? His mother looked at him with a sad smile.
It all started when I wished upon a star.
The End of Unknown. And I believe the first series I think I've ever completed properly. The first Patreon series, that's for sure. But man, what a ride this has been. From the whole sci-fi adventure to, well, a rather bleak end, but one with some context that I would like, especially with the quote-unquote, not really a sequel. It's more like from Lyra's perspective, before all of this. And what an interesting way to end, by the way. I never expected 6 to get with Lyra, but it does make some sense in a way, given that she was the first alien, was probably the most excited about it. It's cute. I really like it. What else I like, however, are my wonderful Patreons and the requester of this series. Thank you, Squall, Windfeather, Juan de la Paz, Starlight Blaze, Dreamless Portal, and Rainflicker. Sword Brethren Mordred, Danish Dash, Nocturne, Solus, RD Bryant, Captain BlueShadow, HKH4AK Texture, and the one who requested this series, The Animated Ghost. And of course a large thank you to Silent Titan. Thank you guys so much for your support, and thank you guys for, showing me really interesting fics, ones that I end up enjoying quite a lot. That aside, however, this has been Firehearth. I hope you enjoyed, and have a wonderful day.